Today I am joined by, you know him from No Retreat, No Surrender 2, No Retreat, No Surrender 3, King of the Kickboxers, martial artist extraordinaire, Mr. Loren Avedon. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Corey. Absolutely. Thank you.
Normally, I would always ask how you got started in the acting business, but as somebody who studies martial arts, I'm more curious. Tell me about your martial arts background. I mean, I clearly can tell the taekwondo from a lot of the kicks that you do, but it looks like you've got some hapkido moves blended in there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about when I started to learn martial arts is there wasn't too many schools around where I was living. I went to Beverly Hills High School. I was the poor kid, and but
Is
I
that the
had seen
90210 school?
yeah, I went
All
to
right.
Beverly Hills. We used to call it Beverly Hills Get High School.
Hey, nothing wrong
Um,
with that.
Nothing. But that was, late 70s, and I graduated class of 80. But my friends had been going to some different martial arts schools, but there was a couple that I knew that had gone to June Chung. And so I didn't really have, I had to earn everything that I got, including, washing and waxing cars to be able to buy my first car, for example. Um, so I went to Beverly High because my mom didn't want me going to LAUSD schools because I got thumped on the way to my little private school when we lived in LA and this and that. So a long story longer, I got out of high school, close to getting out of high school, and I finally got my first car. And I had wanted to study martial arts or some form of martial art for so long, and I had tried the Roxbury Park after school, or not after school, but lessons here by somebody that and not a traditional setting, and it just didn't really work out. So there was Kung Fu Sansu, there was Shotokan Karate, there was Beverly Hills Karate, Emil Farkas, which was kind of a joke. And then there was June Chung, and June Chung is right outside of Beverly Hills on Wilshire and La Jolla. Now he's very close to there now, but that particular location, which used to be a Chuck Norris school, was where I first walked in and saw this guy run from one side of the school to the other, fly through the air, kick the heavy bag, folded in two, swung, hit the ceiling, stuffing flying out of it, and I'm like, wow, that was so amazing. And so I took a flyer, came back for the class that night. Who was my intro instructor? Simon Reed.
The legend.
And so I was just absolutely hooked, Corey. I thought I was in shape because I was a distance runner and somewhat of an athlete, and I was just ready to die after 40 minutes of a 1 hour class. And my ribs hurt for 6 weeks, and I begged my mom to sign up. So when you went to in 1980 or whatever, to a karate studio, is basically to learn how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was so cool about June Chung, is we learned a very traditional style, but it incorporated boxing. It incorporated sort of Tang Soo Do, mostly Taekwondo. Tang Soo Do was invented in order for Koreans to keep training in Taekyon or Taekwondo during their Japanese occupation. And so that's where it developed more of that, kind of the ITF style still has that. But then they also taught Hapkido, and so you had ground techniques, you had stand-up techniques, you had the footwork, you had the sparring, you had the combination drills, you had the footwork, the Okinawan kind of style footwork. And it was really just a blessing to be around all of these incredible martial artists, and then to be introduced and to train with Philip Ree and then Master Chung. They were just incredible athletes, and the way they carried themselves, and just the philosophy of the school and the methodology of the school, the programs. There was no cutting corners. There was no buying your belt. There was no McDojos, in that time. Shotokan wasn't for me because I didn't really want to be whacked with a shinai. I thought that was unnecessary, and I thought it was too rigid. And I just loved June Chong, and I sort of fell into the school where all of these incredible athletes were coming to train as well. And then you had Bill Wallace coming there. You had, just all of these people would come through there. So I just got very, very lucky. But I was a martial arts junkie, really. And after June Chong, I studied Muay Thai, I studied Wing Chun, I studied Arnis at Kali Eskrima. I would go to Jeet Kune Do classes every once in a while at the Inasano Academy. I would just go anywhere where I could learn something and practice it. And of course, part of Hapkido is weaponry, is the short staff, long staff, Gumdo, short sword, long sword, so forth. So, it was an overall system at June Chong. And, that was really, really what kind of set us apart. And the other thing was we had to compete. We had to go to point tournaments like Heel Cho tournaments and our inter-school tournaments and various. I went to the internationals. I went to Mike Stone tournaments. I hated getting kicked in the balls. I'd be whacking somebody right in the mouth, and some Kempo guy would be scoop kicking me in the nuts, and they'd get the point. So, whatever. But I was always interested in the aspect of the challenge. Am I learning something that's effective? And I was very, very lucky to study under June Chong and all of the people that came through there, and all of the people who he got from, there were instructors coming from Korea. There was Master Simon reteaching. There was Master Philip reteaching. There was Master June Chong, very hands-on, very dedicated, and just all around mind, body, spirit philosophy. And I ended up being an instructor there, and teaching the kids and influencing a lot of other martial artists, and learning a lot about myself, because that's what martial arts is really about. It's great to know technique. It's great but if you can master yourself, and if you can find things that challenge you and make you better. It took me a while to realize that, because I got started at almost 18. I was just about to turn 18. So I really needed some male role models. So I fell into a great place. I really did.
Was it training with the Rees that got you the little part in LA Street Fighters? I think here in the States it's called Ninja Turf.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anybody, and we would get jobs all the time, because back in the day, that's how I got my A card. My SAG card is Pepsi Slice was looking for black belts, and they had called Stunts Unlimited. They had called, they'd had open castings and stuff like that, and they finally, just started calling karate studios. So I showed up, and I got that. I got that gig as a Pepsi Slice black belt, as you probably saw from if you watched the Bruce Willow interview.
I love Pepsi Slice.
He actually found the commercial where I, do this thing. But the thing about it is that I met Ernie Reyes Sr. there. I already knew Cynthia Rothrock from West Coast Demo Team, but she was so far advanced, so far ahead of me. And Ernie Reyes Jr., Ernie Reyes Sr., the Castro twins, they were Pepsi Slice black belts. And so, it's one of these things where they would call the school. Yes, I did play a part in Ninja Turf, and this Korean director who didn't speak a lick of English, but sure had the role of playing director. Literally the scarf, the hat, the cigarette in his mouth, the sunglasses at night, But we would shoot that on the weekends. We literally went to Fairfax High School, and walked through a crowd of students there, and we did all that stuff. I was one of James Liu's, one of Chan's gang. So yeah, that's how I got my feet wet a little bit. Although my mother was a commercial producer and director, so when I was a young man, I was in a lot of television commercials, but I never saw a dime of that money if there was any money made. But it was all good, So the thing about it is there was a lot of Hollywood going through that school, and there was a lot of opportunities. And Master Chung had been a filmmaker as well, but I sort of got into whatever was going on just simply by being at that school. it was a trip. How even Roy Horan and Seasonal Films, they were canvassing karate studios after Kurt McKinney and Jean Claude decided not to go to Thailand for No Retreat, No Surrender 2. So that's what really gave me the big break.
No, I mean, I have to. That's my next question. I akin in the states, anyways, to the No Retreat, No Surrender films, much like Don the Dragon's Blood Fist films. They're using that title of No Retreat, No Surrender for the sale. But I mean, even if let's say Van Damme and Kurt would have gone into No Retreat, No Surrender too,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made any damn sense. They would have had to have been different people. I mean, I can't see how there'd be continuity in it. But were you how was it, your first big film and you're next to the queen of martial arts, Cynthia Rothrock?
Well, as I said, I had seen her like when I was a green belt, do her whip chain form and be a part of a West Coast demo team, Ernie Reyes Senior's team, and he mixes Taekwondo with other styles, and I don't know the exact style of martial art that he professes. Forgive me for that ignorance, but the fact is Cynthia was just such a sweetheart when I met her and when we started working together. I had known her just from going to tournaments, because after you would go to these tournaments, all of the masters, we'd all get together. We'd go out for dinner, to a Korean restaurant. And just there's 50 of us, as Koreans they say, well, we'll go mogu, which means go eat. And so I had met her, sort of informally. But then when I got to see her and meet her on the set, really it was the first time they had built that end set for No Retreat, No Surrender 2, and she had to do a fight with Huang Zhang Li. And Huang had sort of been training me a little bit at the Ambassador Hotel when we were, because they had all the sets ready, everything was ready to go, and Jean-Claude and Kurt backed out. Now, Kurt didn't take much convincing not to do that. He had a soap opera gig and was getting good money from a network. Jean-Claude had Bloodsport on the shelf and had done that, with Golden Globus, and it was just sitting there on the shelf, waiting to be released. But and he was, from what I understand, he didn't like how the Chinese, were forcing contact. That's just expected of you in a Chinese martial arts film, is that you're going to get busted up. You're gonna take some shots, and I had no problem with that. I would just always say, please don't break my nose, because
Yeah, I mean, I've taken beatings for free. I'll take one for a paycheck. Why not?
hey, I went back to stunting, and then they don't care,
Yeah.
But see, the whole thing is if you're a martial artist and you're doing these kinds of movies, you know it's going to be 14 hours a day of some serious, stuff, especially if you. I mean, I would watch Kung Fu Theater when I was just a little kid.
Me too.
What I mean, on TV.
Sunday mornings. Hell yeah.
And it was like, whoa, these guys are getting jacked up. But the thing is Cynthia is just a doll. She was just super to work with, and I didn't know all of sort of the Hong Kong royalty that I was working with. I had kind of that going for me. I was just this kid who had just gotten back from Africa, literally, because I went there with my dad on a safari, and my dad and I had never done anything, and I was finally, getting closer to him as we both got older. And I had no money. I was living back at home because I couldn't afford to pay my rent and go to Africa for 6 weeks. So I was trying to sell used cars at Claude Short Dodge in Santa Monica, and was punching the bag at the karate studio, Jun Chung, and the phone rings, and it's Roy Horan. And Roy had taken that No Retreat, No Surrender 2 script, kind of ripped it from Keith Strandberg, and made it into his own, monster. And, Keith had really, he's the one, Keith Strandberg is the one who wrote the original No Retreat, No Surrender. And he was supposed to be producer and on the set doing the deal with No Retreat, No Surrender 2, but he was nowhere to be found. But what the thing about the No Retreat, No Surrender titles is it was supposed to be kind of like a theme, not necessarily, a sequel of the previous story, but just a no retreat, no surrender kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it worked, even with 3, me being in 3 with Keith Vitale. Completely different set of circumstances, completely different story, and then it's like in Europe, those movies are called, they're part of the Karate Tiger series.
Yeah, that my prints of those are the Karate Tiger ones from overseas.
Yeah, that's right. So 1 is the Karate Tiger 1 is No Retreat, No Surrender. Then 2 is No Retreat, No Surrender 2, Raging Thunder. I don't know if 3 is. I think 3 is that. 4 is something else. I get them confused. And then
5 is American Kickboxer.
Okay, well, we'll see now when they re-release it on Blu.
I think 4 is Showdown, the Billy Blanks Ken Scott film that I'm a huge mark for. That's either 4. I'm pretty sure that's 4. And I'm almost positive King of the Kickboxers is 5.
Yes, that's the way it was re-released, at least recently on Blu-ray, which is a questionable re-release. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or I've mentioned it before, but when I called NG's, because NG's not well, but I can still call the office over there, and I can't think of her name right now, but she still works for him. She's NG's assistant, and I said, "Did you guys license a Blu-ray release?" Because people have been screaming. And look, Seasonal Films has been defunct since 2008. So all of these masters and all of the rights to these films are kind of up in the air in various territories. But Germany and Europe is notorious for piracy. I mean, there's China and then there's Germany. And so the Shamrock Media, I call him a member because he still reps himself as being, producer for Seasonal Films. And I'm like, who the hell is the Shamrock Media and this Dutch guy? And why are they ripping Blu-ray things? And why am I getting these mysterious messages on Facebook from some dude to maybe do some behind-the-scenes interviews and this and that? Why is this so cloak and dagger? What's the story with this? And then all of a sudden it's released. They've ripped these Blu-rays in Austria. The company is out of somewhere in Germany, but not really. It's some company in Holland. So to me, it just reeks of, shall we say, a pirated copy and a pirated release. But they have it listed on IMDb, and they have this and that. But IMDb is not a policing agency. You know what I mean? So
I paid $39 for my copy of it. Hey, I got to tell you, it looks good.
I'm glad, because I'll tell you, what Imperial Entertainment did with the release of No Retreat 3 and King of the Kickboxers is they demanded the sound be redone. They demanded quality, a better quality print, better quality sound, even though, in No Retreat 3, if you listen to some of these Sammo Hung soundtracks and stuff from some of his movies.
Yeah.
It's the same organ, it's the same synthesizer, Anyway, but long story short, or long story longer, the thing is all of these kung fu or Hong Kongy movies, and No Retreat, No Surrender was just kind of like supposed to be a theme, and it was going to be different stories every time. But I'm glad that Roy Horan happened to call the Karate Studio at 9:30 at night on a Friday night. I mean, who does that? Who's at the Karate Studio at 9:30 at night on a Friday night? Well, a guy like me. So I just got really lucky, and I foot the bill. But they did see a lot of other actors and martial artists, but they wanted somebody who could do it and be believable because for the Chinese, the dialogue or the characterization is, it's cartoony, it's over the top, at least back then. and it's supposed to be entertainment. I mean, you can tell from the old Bruce Lee movies, when you see the characterizations of things. So, I mean, I'm just lucky. I really am lucky that I was right place, right time. But, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right, Corey? I mean, you got to be prepared for that opportunity because you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. So,
now you got to work in that one with the true definition of a gentle giant is Matthias Hughes,
absolutely,
and
such a good guy.
that might have been his. And he at the time, I don't think he had any martial arts training. He may have, I don't know, but he that was like probably his first film, or I think it was his first film. What was it like working with him? Were you nervous you might maybe crack him too hard or anything like that, or was he was he just easy, no problem working with?
He has got to be one of the greatest guys. I mean, not a mean bone. Sometimes I don't know if you've experienced this, Corey, but sometimes guys that are that big are just so nice because they are so tired of people being afraid of them. Really, that once you meet them, plus he's just a gentleman. I mean, he's a very well-educated, well-bred, he is a very disciplined and intelligent guy.
Very soft-spoken too.
Say again?
He's very soft-spoken. I remember when I talked to him, I'm thinking I'm going to hear, "This is Matthias," and he's like, "Hello, my friend. How are you?" Like that. I was like, well, am I talking to the right guy here? What's going on?
I know, totally the antithesis of his character. But, he pulled from, I think, because we had conversations about our characterization and what we were going to do. Because basically all we did was fight. But the thing about it is that, he had studied some acting and whatnot, but we had some conversations, and I said, Matthias, the worst thing you can do is act like you're a bad guy. A bad guy always thinks, or somebody always thinks is, and this was just, a side advice, just talking, a guy who, because, I played a bad guy in Tiger Claws 3. Well, a good bad guy is just a guy who thinks that he can do whatever he wants and nobody else has the guts to do it. Mm-hmm. So he's going to do it. And that's what makes it fun. Is, you kind of look at this guy and, he's not trying to be, and then there are the really scary bad guy types. But for this kind of film, this character that he was playing and these characters that we were playing, it's very tongue-in-cheek. I mean, it's so out there, the whole story anyway, that, it's pure entertainment. And he did a terrific job taking over that kind of quiet, we're gonna, that, shall we say, that Germanic side, what I mean? But, no, he's just such an incredible athlete, such an incredibly disciplined athlete, and whatever he was, who's gonna double a 6'6" guy in the middle of Thailand?
Not too many people.
So he was such a good sport, and he was just so amazing. I mean, when you take off your shirt in a movie like that, you can't put elbow pads on. You can't put a gaiter back on or anything to pad your back if you're going to hit the deck or run into some, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And he opted to do that, and he took the pops, and he, at least they were able to wrap a red flag around him and drag him so he didn't have, a bunch of, shall we say, sod going into his pants, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was painful, to do that is painful. And, he just he's a wonderful, wonderful guy and a gentle giant. Great athlete, trains in movie, martial arts, as far as I know. A guy like that, an athlete like that, I mean, let's just get real. I kicked him as hard as I could. We had Rocky, one of these Hong Kong stunt guys, jump off a 12-foot ledge, double kick him in the chest over and over again to get that one shot when he comes through the door, mm-hmm. and I'm up on the ledge. And he would just get up, brush himself off, and do it again. I mean, you'd think that, I mean, even a little Chinese dude who makes, excuse me, I don't mean anything racist or racial about that, but I mean a little Chinese Hong Kong stunt guy. Any of these acrobat guys are small. I
Yeah.
mean, they just aren't. You're not going to find a guy. I mean, I could do Hong Kong twists, I could do an aerial and stuff like that, but as far as hitting the deck like that and doing what he did and exposing his chest and being double kicked in the sternum like that, 4 times they did that. And each time Rocky, the Chinese stunt guy who doubled me to do that, hit the ground, I swear to God, I thought he broke his clavicle, his arm, because that was solid, wood planks. There's nothing there. There's no, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Matthias is flying off the screen, and then they cut and hit, have him hitting the ground. Maybe he can put a little pad in his tailbone because he's got some pants on.
Yeah.
But I mean, he took a lot of punishment.
Yes, he did.
And I have so much respect for him. And he was in pain after hitting my little bony arms. And these Chinese had this special spray that would literally, it was an anti-inflammatory that they would put on him because his arms would just swell up even larger than they were from blocking my kicks and from hitting my bony little arms. And they're little arms compared to his, I mean, good grief. So, but that's just the whole deal about Matthias is he was just a joy to work with and a joy to have on the set, and we worked things together, and the Chinese had some really, really great choreography, but some of it wouldn't work. So we would have to modify things because here you've got 2 guys working in a certain space they have a certain length of arms and legs, and here you have 2 completely different sized men that have to do the same gaff in the same sort of space. Well, some of that stuff's not going to work. So the Chinese are very creative. They usually have a 5-man team and a stunt coordinator. And Gang Chu, who was a very seasoned guy who worked with Yun Kuei. Yun Kuei, you can see him in Enter the Dragon. He's one of the guys that Bruce Lee, beats the crap out of in, or not Enter the Dragon, in Fist of Fury and Chinese Connection.
Okay.
So but here's Chinese royalty that I'm working with, Chinese cinema royalty, and Cynthia Rothrock and Huang Jung Lee, who has, Snake and Eagle Shadow, Drunken Master, and like 300 other Hong Kong films. I mean, it was just a coup de grace of just amazingly talented martial artists, athletes, stunt people, and then working in the middle of Thailand, and just having to get it on. It was not an easy thing to do, but we did it.
Now, when you did No Retreat, No Surrender 3, Blood Brothers, any martial arts fan is going to say the final fight there in that hangar, one of the greatest fights in martial art film history. How long did that take to actually film that sequence?
Well, that was about 2 weeks in a hangar in Tampa, Florida in the summer.
Oh, God, it had to be 150 degrees.
Let's just say at the top of that scaffolding, it was about 130.
Jesus.
And we were inside, and you can't run fans, and or you can slide open the doors. You saw the hangar doors. You can do some things to cool down, but poor Keith had busted his arm before the start of the film, and NG was trying to throw him under the bus, asking me, Loren, do you know anybody who can play your brother? And I'm like, no. And that no meant, I'm walking if you get rid of him, because Keith was still is one of my martial arts heroes because of he was a real deal, man. He would get in there and, he would whoop people's asses, and was number 1 in the world from 1978 to 1980. So I was very familiar. Every time and this is something I've said before, but every time I go to the magazine stand, there he is on the cover of every magazine, and I get to play his brother in a movie.
Yeah.
And how cool is that? And then the thing that's so funny is that Keith Strandberg is good friends with Keith Vitale, and that's why they went on to do other films together, like super fights and whatever other things that they did together. But Keith was pissed at Strandberg, going like, why does it take the two of us to beat this one guy at the end of this movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And but it was all for, and you know, I got to say, Ryan Hunter, who, I don't know, he's disappeared off the face of the earth. Nobody seems to know where he is. But he's a Hopi Indian shaman, so he probably just disappeared back into the reservation somewhere, and he's living his life because he's a very spiritual dude. But he was such a great athlete that he could pull off those whole things. Now, he was obviously a trained martial artist, but you know, he was just so amazing at his character.
Hello?
Can you hear me, Corey?
Now I can.
Okay. So I don't know where you lost me,
You
but
just said how good he was at his character.
yeah, how great he was at his character. And then you have Mark Russo, who's his henchman. And Mark was a second-degree black belt under Dr. Hatsumi, a real ninja. And when Mark came to audition, because we did actual screen test auditions at this little hotel in Tampa that is exactly 30 minutes away from where I live right now. It was called the Sailport. So he's having his uki, Scott Sent, who passed away a couple years ago, rest his soul, he's a wonderful man, actually come at him with a razor-sharp hatchet and execute all of these, you know, ninja technique. So you have Mark Russo, who's a badass to begin with. You have, you know, so when it gets down to the end of it, it just worked. And, you know, we made it work because of the organics of the place where we are. Where, you know, we can't have a straight up, you know, fight. We got planes and propellers and boxes and, you know, stuff all around us. And so, you know, he also has these little dark weapons, you know, just uber Chinese stuff. You know, you see some uber Chinese, you know, footwork, choreography stuff going on. And then, of course, he scales the scaffolding right in 3 hops.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it's all, look, Corey, come on, it's all entertainment. And that's all the Chinese really cared about, was doing something that was going to be entertaining and story and script. And just to add that I had to fight for the reconciliation scene at the end of that movie, because Lucas Lowe was like, we don't need to shoot that. And I was like, Lucas, we absolutely need to shoot that, because, you know, here we've been at odds with each other about, you know, our various philosophies, and then our father dying, and we come together to defeat, you know, his murderers, and we have to reconcile. I mean, the movie's called Blood Brothers, not, you know, beat the shit out of each other and
Yeah.
shoot people. And so he gave us one take to do that reconciliation scene with Wanda Acuna at the end of the film. But it was grueling to be in that hangar. And I was so amped at doing all of this stuff. Really, I mean, when they yank me back, when I first get flying sidekicked, and, you know, they cut, you know, for me flying out of the screen,
Mm-hmm.
then they cable me and yank me into that wall. I was like, as hard as you can, you know? And so it's, you know, it's just one of those things where it is one of these things where, and you're a martial artist, so you can get this. The harder you go, like, the more you try to protect yourself, the more you're going to get hurt.
Oh,
the
God,
less the less relaxed you are, the more, you know, it's like if you don't throw yourself into that wall or into that plane or into that, you know, into that, or if you don't let yourself get kicked as hard as possible, and, you know, not, of course there's areas, right? I mean, you don't want that in the floating ribs. You don't, you know, I mean, I busted Thomas Ian Griffiths three of his ribs when he was training for Karate Kid 3. Because here's a 6'6", 260-pound guy coming at me with his telephone pole legs, and I got sick of it. So I fucking stuck him with a back kick in his ribs and broke 3 or 4 of them. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
So the thing about it is that so you've got to agree to put all into it. And there's a couple times you can see that I get really punched in the face. They slow mo it. They run the film at 88, and you've got Tony Leung Shin Hong, who's the Green Dragon Master in Ip Man. The first Ip Man. That's the guy who was a stunt coordinator on Blood Brothers. And he's off the camera, and he's about to punch me in the face. And I'm saying, okay, let me stuff some cotton in between my teeth, and just please don't hit me in the cheek, and don't hit me in the jaw. Just whack me as hard as you can in the teeth with your fist. And I'm going to relax my neck, and because I had to turn into it and relax my neck, and that's dangerous because you could get your neck snapped.
Yeah.
But he knew timing, and he knew that I was going to be relaxed. So he hit me in the face probably 5 times, and that was cool because every time he would hit me right in that spot, because we would rehearse the turn in, and then rolling speed. And then, when you're cranking a normal 35 millimeter camera at 80, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's no sound. It's just the effect and they've sprayed me down with sweat as if they had to. It's already boiling. But, so it's one of those things, man. It is still holds up to this day as being so like there's nobody waiting, for a shot. Everything is locomotion. That's one of the things that I hate about some of the choreography or over choreography that I see in some of today's martial arts films. There's a lot of uber technique, but the human eye needs some time, and also the characters need to show a little bit of vulnerability, not, the superhuman, unless you're a Marvel character or something like that, fine.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So some of those old fight scenes, for me, they have so much more impact because there's time allowed for the audience to take in what just happened. And you can see that, that dude just hit the ground. That dude just got, nailed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the acting aspect of the fight. You've got the pose and the whatnot in the next bit. And then 8 to 20 moves, and then what they call double action or overlapping what you've done. But now these days, they previs everything. They shoot it. They got the stunt guys. They're in the room. They're doing this. They show it to the director, and the director goes, okay, great. Let's do this. Let's change this. And they're able to show the actors what to do. Whereas back in the day, it was, you better be ready for anything at any time because you don't know what you're doing until they show you. And so that was, that's, I think, also what makes it so organic and makes it hold up, is because we were just ready for anything. And that one shot, if you watch this again, where Keith Vitale kips up after he does something, he blocks something, and you see him grimace,
mm-hmm.
That's a real grimace because his arm hurt so bad because it was still broken and it was still in a cast, and he had just had to do that, whatever that thing was, whatever that little gaff was, hit his back and then kip up, and he just goes, oh, and that's a real, oh, that's not acting, So anyway, but it was really cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment. I hope that, I hope that continues to be something that's said and mentioned long after I've, gone the other side of the grass.
The knife deflect with the spinning kick is amazing. I mean, how many times did that have to be practiced to pull off?
The soccer kick, yeah.
Yes.
The dart deflect, and then you gotta. I always crack up at the sound effect. Whoa! you know, stuff like that, you know. But again, it's tongue in cheek. And then the reaction, what's his reaction? He does like a double spin and then he spits out all this fake blood, right?
Mhm.
And then you have Luke Askew coming in saying, you know, da, 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 and being Joe Cool. And then, you know, he shoots him. And so, and literally Lucas, the makeup lady threw up her arm. She's like, I don't know how to, you know, create a prosthetic or do this. Lucas Lowe, the director, just took a bunch of cotton balls and some super glue or whatever and stuck them to Ryan's face and put a bunch of blood on it for the, you know, for the shit getting shot in the face. And, you know, Ryan hits the ground. And another thing that, you know, just all of these organic things happened on that movie. Like, we actually got to shoot George Bush landing Air Force One. I mean, that really happened at Tampa International Airport. And the crew got a press pass to be way the F away from, you know, wherever the Secret Service is, where they're snipers, to get that shot of George Bush and put a grid over it, you know what I mean? Thank God they're in Hong Kong editing this movie, and then release it. And so, you know, I mean, how lucky were we to get that? And then, you know, just little organic things would happen. And, you know, like when I bumped Luke Askew after the funeral and his glasses popped down on his nose, that's because I really butted him as I went by and his glasses came off. That wasn't like some little wire trick or something. And, you know, we just played it. It's just little things that, you know, that happen and are memorable to me. And that's what you want in an entertaining action film. You really want to, you know, be entertained by the characters. A lot of these characters look like Rambo, Last Blood, or, you know, all of these real, you know, really dramatic films. Even one of my favorite last ones, which is the one with Chris Helmsworth on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
Extraction.
Yeah.
Extraction, I think it is. Love that movie because there's so much. It's like there's just enough dialogue in that movie to justify the rest of the action, but you really care about these characters. And, you know, but some of the dialogue in these movies that I had to deliver and Keith had to deliver and had to be delivered is just so corny. So, you know, I mean, but it's entertaining. And, you know, it's supposed to be that. So that's what's cool about it. And No Retreat, No Surrender 2 came out in 2,500 theaters across the United States because it was so unique. And it did better than Red Scorpion at the time, which was Dolph's movie.
Red Scorpion, let's be honest, Red Scorpion stinks. I have no shame in admitting it. I have the Blu-ray. It stinks. It stunk when I was a kid. It stinks now. It's a terrible movie. No disrespect, because the greatest action movie ever made is probably Showdown in Little Tokyo, which is 78 minutes of violence starring Dolph Lundgren. But Red Scorpion's awful.
No, I hear it, dude. All I can tell you is that they kept telling me, oh, No Retreat, No Surrender's doing a better per-screen average in the theaters than Red Scorpion. And I was just kind of going, oh, cool. I never saw Red Scorpion.
Oh, don't. Honestly. It's awful.
Well, there you go. So I didn't waste my, whatever it was, $8 to get in at the time. But I did go to the Pacific Theater in Hollywood and watch myself. I came in late to the whatever and sat in the back and just sweated bullets watching myself on screen and watching people laugh at the wrong moments. You know what I mean? But that's okay, dude. It was entertaining, and people left, you know, having been entertained. There were never any boos or never any yawns. Nobody ever walked out. You know what I mean? It was pure entertainment and fun. So, you know, I'm very, very lucky to have been a part of those things. And that was kind of the golden era of Hong Kong movies. And then, you know, as time progressed and, you know, Seasonal did Blood Moon, they did a couple of other things. And, you know, once I saw, and probably you remember this, that the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer had martial arts in it, like she
Yeah.
was doing martial arts, I was like, I said to myself, oh shit, here we go. It's going to be in everything now. There's going to be martial arts in freaking, a Peanuts cartoon movie.
That
You
would
know
be
what I mean?
sweet.
Yeah. So, and I worked a lot on Buffy,
Great show.
as a bringer, as a vampire, as a double for guest stars. As I worked with John Medlin, with Steve Tartaglia, with Theo Kipri, with I was an Uber vamp. I was utility stunts. Because when I came back when I went through a divorce, I was told you can't work, and so that pretty much threw everything out the window. Because my biggest concern, Corey, was being able to be a dad.
Yeah.
And so I sucked it up and kind of lived with my mom for about almost 2 years because the person that I was divorcing was so vindictive that she could say I was hooked on heroin and having wild sex parties,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to defend that. You have to say no, I'm not. But if I'm living with my mother and my mom can also have a relationship with my daughter, that's huge,
Mm-hmm.
because that also frees me up when I have custody to go and do things. And then finally I stopped fighting it, and because I had all of these guys who were coordinators going, Loren, why don't you come? What are you doing, man? Because that's the wonderful thing about the stunt community and about the other side of Hollywood. Not necessarily the actors track, but the other side of Hollywood. Getting to make the action work, or working with action specialists and action directors and stunt coordinators and choreographers and so forth is, they all know who you are. And I remember I started hustling too, and they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I need a job. So, and that kind of got me out of the hole after that whole process. But it allowed me to do the single dad thing. And, I tried to, with Silent Force, we were going to do a whole production distribution company. That was originally in 1995, so that was about 4 years after King of the Kickboxers. But we had a whole plan, and that was totally stolen from us. And then Deadly Ransom was a story that I had given to a writer to write, and I'm up doing a movie in Canada. I can't remember if it was Tiger Claws or what it was, and Tiger Claws 3. And the writer says, I got the money for the movie. And I'm like, what? He says, yeah, there's this Korean producer, and he's given us, X amount of dollars to make the movie. So just come back, don't screw it up, and, we can make it a co-production, and so on and so forth. Well, he did kind of screw it up because he didn't allow me to do what he promised me to do and what I was contracted to do, which was to direct second unit and gaff the action. So, it came out to be what it was, which was a really poor drama. Mm-hmm. And Francesco Quinn was just so cool to work with, but that I was really disappointed mostly with that film. And one of the coolest parts of the movie was supposed to be going to Puerto Rico and diving the wall as Navy SEALs. I don't know if you're a diver.
Oh, no. I don't even know how to swim. I'm not going to
lie. Okay, well, there's this place where the continental shelf drops off. It's just off of the southern coast of Puerto Rico, off of Ponce or Paguera, and it's about 5 miles out, and it's called the Wall. And so it goes from about 60-foot depth down to 800 feet. And you have some of the most amazing sea life and some of the most clear water to shoot in. And we were supposed to do this fight scene. Now, you can't do at 120 feet below, underwater. You've got a tank of oxygen on. It's going to last maybe 15 minutes. And so I had to buddy breathe a couple times just in rehearsals to show the director what we were going to do. Then what happens? Well, guess what? In September in Puerto Rico, it's hurricane season. hurricane comes along, blows the whole deal because there was so much silt and crap in the water for the next 2.5 weeks. We couldn't afford to hold the crew or even shut down and go back to shoot that scene. That would have been something that, first of all, you could have green screened it or done it, somehow today. But back in 1996, that would have been a live action underwater, 100 foot below, the surface fight, and that would have been badass.
Yeah.
And that was something I was so looking forward to doing. And Efra Paguera, who prepared us for that, was a diver with Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau, had over 6,000 dives with Cousteau. And then all of a sudden we couldn't do it. So, just a series of unfortunate events. And then divorce. And then, living the single dad life. And then getting back into stunts a little bit after the turn of the 21st century. And then got back into that. And I mean, look, I went to Hawaii for a long time. I ducked out for almost 10 years. And now I'm back, and there seems to be interest. So, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to tell you what, I am so fortunate, Corey, to be talking to you, to have had these experiences, and to really just to say that I'm so fortunate to have done some of these movies that you're familiar with and have worked at all. You know what I mean, in the industry. And then to come back and be able to do stunts and work with some incredibly gifted stunt professionals. Merritt Yanka, rest his soul, he just passed away. Chris Carnell, who was a Simon Reese student, he just passed away from an unfortunate motorcycle accident. But the stunt community, I don't know if you can ever get, some interviews. You say you interview James Liu.
James Liu. I've interviewed James Liu. What other stuntmen have I talked to? Oh, the great Bob Miner, Gerald Akamura, Al Leong. My partner in this site is Branscombe Richmond, who's done stunts in tons of films.
There you go. So, I mean, it's a team effort. All of these things are a team effort. But what bothers me these days, Corey, and I know I've done a lot of talking, and you've answered some or asked very few questions, but things that bother me are the fact that, at least, for example, Keanu Reeves puts himself through a 3-4 month boot camp before he goes and does,
Wick.
Yeah, John Wick, and he works with JJ, and he works with Higa Machado, and he works with John Valera and JJ Perry and some of the best in the business, and so it's believable. And amen to him. And I mean, he did that for The Matrix too. I mean, he studied Hapkido, and so he could do that thing with is it Lawrence Fishburne, I think, that he does that Hapkido fight with in The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
So but the thing that's missing, the thing that bothers me, is when I don't see. I mean, bless Gina Carano's heart for getting, segueing in, but I haven't seen much of her lately. I guess she's in something now. I don't know what, but bless her for segueing. But that one great fight with Michael Fassbender and Gina, that's J.J. Perry. That's my buddy J.J., who I gave a couple of his first jobs, fight choreography doing. And then that's just Michael Fassbender fucking doing everything, excuse my F, but in that whole thing. He didn't need a double. He went through the glass door or the door. He got whacked in the face with a vase. He got, choked out by Gina Carano. He got triangled by Gina Carano. I mean, there's a little muff diving right there, but not very pleasant. So that's the thing, though, that bothers me in a roundabout way, Corey, is that you don't have real martial artists. And, I'm sorry, Cobra Kai or whatever this, I can't even watch it.
That's I gotta lie to you. Or no, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm telling you the truth. And I've said this I've said this in a few interviews, and My favorite action movies are the ones from the very late 80s to the mid 90s. I want to see Loren Avedon doing taekwondo. I want to see Don the Dragon kickboxing. I just want to see Cynthia Rothrock. I want to watch real martial artists doing these fights. And
Yeah.
that's why I like this era of films. But I got to tell you, Cobra Kai is a damn good show.
Is it really?
It's really that good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm happy. I'm happy for that. I'm glad that Ralph Macchio, is working again because he got pigeonholed after doing those films, as the kind of bouncy toad, formerly from Brooklyn guy. He didn't really work that much for a
Well, it's
long
because
time.
the martial arts in the Karate Kid movie stink. I mean, the highlight of I hate to say this, I don't mean disrespect, but I mean, I don't know, I was doing martial arts when the first one came out. A handyman ain't gonna train a kid in 3 or 4 weeks to beat a black belt. It ain't happening. You number one, you have no accreditation or insurance to enter a student in the tournament anyway. But
Right.
the only martial arts that I thought was good in that whole series was Thomas Ian Griffin in the third one. I thought he was the only one that actually looked like he
Well,
knew what he was doing.
well, he was a martial artist, and that's what I'm telling you. One day, Master Chung calls me up and he says, "Loren, bring your equipment and come to the Wilshire School at 3 o'clock." Yes, sir. And there's this guy, 6'6" or 5 or whatever it is, Thomas Ian Griffith, and he says, "I want you to spar with Thomas." And I said, "Okay." And I'm 170 pounds, soaking wet. And so we bow, and he just starts coming at me with everything. And I busted 3, 4 of his ribs. So, the thing about it is I like Thomas, and his wife started taking martial arts there, but he got a little cocky. And, and it's the same thing with Martin Cove. Like, I've been around Martin Cove, and he can be such an a-hole. But, sometimes I guess you just catch people on the wrong day. But, it's Thomas was a martial artist of sorts. He came in with a black belt. But they were calling me from the set like, "Loren, you should, why aren't you a part of this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Nobody ever called me. I never got the call. So, I don't know. And I'm not going to go visit set. There's no point because I just don't, I just don't need to go." And I was on my own track trying to do other stuff. But yeah, Thomas is a real martial artist. Lorenzo Lamas is a super athlete. There was another guy named Bob Nellis, Jun Chung, just an amazingly gifted. There's just some people who have timing and who just get it, and who have the athletic ability and the mind to to just. And that's another thing. I'm not. I've got to toot my own horn a little bit, but I have a different speed than most people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it is. And I think that's genetic. I think that comes from my father and my mother. My father was a double ace plus and was in World War II and in Korea. And his call sign was Deadeye. And other than Ted Williams, he was out there. He survived more missions than a fighter pilot should ever survive. And so I think I got that genetically. And I think I got that also from my mother, who was second in the nation in archery in World War II. They would combine all these tallied scores on paper. And so she had that eye. And so did my father. And I have fast reflexes. And at 58, yeah, I can't do what I used to be able to do, but who can? And that's okay. And the thing is the guy who Fumio Demora, and I'm not saying his name right, but was the guy who doubled Pat Morita, and who that character is fashioned after, and the lineage of Grandmaster or Shihan Demora.
Mm-hmm.
He was and is one of the greatest karatekas of the 20th century. So, I mean, thank God he was around for Pat Morita to jump in there and do that and make it believable. But yes, of course, Daniel San cannot learn how to do that stuff. But that was the beauty of the movie, and that's again, it's entertaining. You know what I mean? It was that little love story
Now
and the kind of cuteness of it. So
I couldn't get a better segue for this because now a much better, anyone that knows me knows I mean this, a much better movie where is Showdown, where the bullied kid is trained by the janitor to fight in the underground illegal tournaments. That
right,
janitor being the great Billy Blanks, who you worked with in your most well known film, King of
yeah,
the
man.
Kickboxers. And I think it's the only movie Billy's ever been the heavy in, to my knowledge. But the first thing I got to ask about that, because that looked like it had to be a grueling film to make. Who in the hell came up with the genius idea of having Billy Blanks play some psychotic kickboxer that murders people in snuff movies? And, I mean, this was the greatest plot. I mean, on paper, this movie is amazing, and your fight scenes in this. I mean, you guys really look like you were just going
Oh,
at it.
we were beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
That's why I had to keep my top on because look, Billy, when you see Bill, the first shot in that movie, first of all, it's the demented mind of Keith Strandberg, and it's also just the incredible luck of casting. I mean, Don Wilson came in for Praying's part that Keith Cook played, okay, but Don, bless his heart, I would never get in the ring with Don Wilson,
Oh God,
but
no! I don't think Chuck Norris would get in the ring with him in a kickboxing match.
well, there you go, and he challenged our my wonderfully who I think is just so wonderful, Jean Claude Van something or other,
Yeah.
who Inside Edition did research on, and they couldn't find him. That he's not was never a European kickboxing champion. Inside Edition proved that as a Van Buren or as Van Dam. But anyway, first of all, we just got so lucky that Billy was starting to, be open to doing films. And I don't know how they found him. I was in on the casting of Blood Brothers and of King of the Kickboxers. Gerald Okamura came in for Praying as well, and just about broke the drywall with me as he was demonstrating whatever. But again, he didn't have the athletic ability that they were looking for. Because look at Keith Cook.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what that guy can do, and he still can, pretty much do all of it at 55 years old right now. I mean, the guy is amazing. And then you have Billy Blanks, 7-time world karate champion. And they throw us all together, and it is just absolutely amazing what comes out of that. And we beat the crap out of each other. I can't tell you how many times I was gutted by Billy on shooting that ending fight scene. Not to mention the fact that, I had to tell the guy, whoever was the ties that were building this ridiculous,
That
dome
bamboo
cage.
cage thing. That was so cool, though.
It was super cool. And this is Lucas Lowe, who's also, I'm sorry, but that dude's a sadist. Who was the director of Blood Brothers and of King of the Kickboxers. Basically, I had to tell them, those punji stick things that were coming out of the water, they had real bamboo sharpened sticks there right near those platforms. And I was walking the set going, guys, I don't mean to sound, like, give you guys any extra work, but could you please, within 5 feet or, 8 feet or like 2 or 3 meters of the platforms, put fake rubber punji sticks in, please? Because if somebody, I don't care who, slips off of one of these platforms, they're done. That's it. It's over. And so, there was little things, but for some reason, Billy was open to playing the baddie in that. And we found out years later that Billy's dyslexic. So somehow he rehearsed and learned the lines. And he admits to this. He admitted it later on. But he was just the greatest guy. I mean, only the truly great are humble, my mother used to say, and it's true. He was just so incredibly gifted athletically, amazing to work with. He came to me early on and said, Loren, this is your movie. I want us to look so, phenomenal, both of us in this film, that we just, you know what I mean? And thank God he allowed, for that to occur. Because if you don't work as a team, Billy Blanks, to work with that guy, he was so gracious, and he came to me and said early on in the film, I want this to be one of the greatest, fight scenes ever made. I want this to be epic. And we just worked together well. We would train together, Keith Cook and Billy and I, in whether it was in the hallway of a hotel or if it was doing that. And to be out in Kanchanaburi, which is where we shot that, and the set was about a quarter-mile walk from the hotel. So we would just walk to work in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then beat the crap out of each other all day, and then come back and have dinner, and then get up and do it again. But it's a team thing, and it's like when Yun Kuei came in to do the establishment of Prang's a prowess as a fighter. I mean, Don couldn't have done that. Gerald couldn't have done that. Nobody could have done that but Keith Cook. He was just an uber athlete, an uber kicker. You could ask him to do anything and he could do it. But we would work as a team, and he actually came up to me when we were shooting this thing, because I'm in there in the background, looking stunned at this drunk guy who finally shows that he's a badass. Mm-hmm. And there's this one segment where he has to do 3 spinning kicks in a row, and he couldn't get around on the third one. And I told him, I said, "You've got the inertia. Just jump. Just punch in the air and do that last spin kick as a jump." And sure enough, it worked. So again, it's a team. It's a collaborative thing. We were working together, all of us, to make some badass action. And if it wasn't for Billy having that phenomenal attitude and the phenomenal athleticism of that guy, he needed no mini tramp to do a jump up double inside crescent kick. He needed no launch, maybe one step to do that jump back kick that I grab, and flip over. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's air. That dude could jump. And talk about fast for a 230-pound dude. Muhammad Ali, he could pick the buttons off your shirt if you want. Literally. Like, he was that fast. He could pick the buttons off your shirt. There's nothing you can do. One time he said, "Loren, hold up your hand for me. I'm going to jab your hand twice, and you're not going to be able to move your hand." And he did. So, I was like, wow. And I'm on a different speed myself, and I'm like, damn, this guy's on hyperdrive,
Did you ever get nervous seeing those giant legs come flying at you?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then sometimes, you have to cross, like he would have to come over my shoulder and touch the back of my head or my neck. But he had such great control. And we had such speed, the two of us, that there's that one thing where I, do sort of a spinning drop kick, axe kick, and I crack through this little rail thing. And then they punch into like a half medium shot of this little hand gaff that we do, a little back fist block duck, and then he knees me and I roll backwards. Well, the Chinese would notoriously either under crank, which means they'd shoot, instead of 24 frames a second, they'd shoot it at 22 or 19 to try to get more speed. Most of that end fight is shot at 24 frames a second because we are fast enough organically to do all of these things. And then of course there's the slow mo bits and certain things that are done in slow motion and certain things where you're doubled or they do the coverage. But let me tell you, that was a grueling. That was about 2.5 to 3 weeks doing that fight,
Jeez.
and it was because they were so demanding. And I'm talking 6 days a week, from 6 o'clock in the morning until light was going down, and then sometimes they had fill light going while we still had some sun to get what we needed, and it was just a phenomenal experience. I don't know how to describe it except it was just a phenomenal. It was surreal to do all the stuff that we were doing
Why do
and
you think?
working with Chinese. Yeah, go
Why do you
ahead.
think there wasn't a part two?
Well, there was they used the part two name or whatever on a film called Fighting Spirit, and that was shot in the Philippines with a guy named Sean Donahue and a guy named Greg Douglas, he's a real live Oklahoma special weapons and tactics police officer. I think he's a sergeant now. I don't know, but I just showed up in the Philippines to finish this movie, and then all of a sudden I see it later on, and it's called King of the Kickboxers 2. Again, total just marketing ripoff. But there isn't a King of the Kickboxers 2, really. There's the movie Fighting Spirit, which is absolutely horrible. And, and when I got there, they had already started shooting, and they showed me the script, and I'm like, no. I said, can we rewrite some of this stuff? And they were totally open to it to make it more fun, more believable. And that was that. So that's King of the Kickboxers 2, but it's not. I mean, I think I sent you some photos
Yes.
or some images,
Mm-hmm.
and there is that little sort of DVD set, and in that you see King of the Kickboxers 2, which is Billy Blanks flexing, somebody else in a fighting stance, and it's the movie Fighting Spirit that is in the box. And it was not a great movie. But in any case, marketing, that's why the No Retreat, No Surrender did so well. Now, everybody says, man, there should be a No Retreat, No Surrender 4. And, look, I would love for there to be a No Retreat, No Surrender 4. But again, Seasonal Films is defunct. They have some sort of licensing on all of those movies. All of those movies, unfortunately, have been on YouTube and are basically public domain now. So, when you do get a Blu-ray release or you do get this or that, and it's in Germany, it's going to be limited. I think on Amazon Prime you can watch King of the Kickboxers. I'm not sure. But it's unfortunate that these films are in limbo because NG is still alive. Seasonal Films, though, is defunct. 1997, that Hong Kong became a part of China. And there's just a whole conundrum of who has the rights. So you have these rogue pirate, I believe, a pirate release of King of the Kickboxers on Blu-ray, and yeah, they get $40 for it. But then it disappears because there's one run. Somebody just made $1 million or $500,000, and they disappear into the shadows.
Oh yeah, they're all limited. They only press so many of them. I don't know if the King of the Kickboxers is numbered. I know the Showdown here in the States, which is American Karate Tiger 4 over there, that was numbered. There were only so many of those pressed.
So I know there was only 1,000 pressed to begin with, and then there was some kind of way that you could order them. But now I don't think you can order anything anymore, right?
No, it's
So
gone.
so that is typical of a movie that doesn't really have distribution, that is a ripped master. I don't know. Is it in English? Is it
Yeah,
in German?
you can select, and I'll tell you, It's great quality. It's very good quality.
Well, basically, I don't know how they got a master. I really don't, unless it was, again, somebody who ripped one or who got a hold of one somehow, some way from some old, film archive. And again, I think I mentioned this to you before we started recording. Germany is notorious because there are so many gray areas. They're like the China of CD slash DVD slash Blu-ray ripoffs. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I know that the copies that are sold of No Retreat, No Surrender 2 in Great Britain, for example, I can't remember the name of the distributor, but I'm sure they honor their, whatever, they pay some kind of royalty.
Those are the
To
prints I have are from Great Britain. I have the single discs, and then I have the triple set that came out.
Right. So that's a legitimate release, but that's not the ones that you want. The ones that you want of two are the Shapiro Glickenhaus release that was in America, in the United States, and the Imperial Entertainment release of King of the Kickboxers and of No Retreat, No Surrender 3 because of the sound quality, because of what they made them do with picture and all that stuff. And I don't know that that's what they are. I have the box set somewhere, and I think I don't like watching myself all that much. So my daughter's always like, "Yeah, let's watch one of your movies." And I'm like, "Can we just watch some of the fights and some, anyway?" So the thing is I think there's some shenanigans going on. And Sterling Home Video, way back in 2007, had called me to say we're going to do a release. And then 2008, Seasonal Films became a defunct company in Hollywood. So then, who had the right to distribute after 2007, 2008, Seasonal Films became defunct. So Sterling Home Video was going to put it out. And then I never heard anything from it because I was going to do some behind the scenes, talk about it, little interviews and stuff like that. And that was the last of that. And then in 2009, I moved to Hawaii. I didn't come back until 2017.
Now, something I'm very curious about, and because my goal when I think in like 93, 94 was to buy a whole lot of vitamins from a guy at the gym and get bigger and go work and make action movies for PM Entertainment because they were making everything back then. I
Right.
noticed you did not have a run with PM like some of the other guys did. Did the opportunity not prevent itself, or did you just not something you wanted to do?
I fucked up. I had I I had Joseph Mayer. He offered me a 3-picture deal in Cannes in 1991 when I went over there for the release of King of the Kickboxers. And I thought I could do better because I didn't know PM was just starting, and I was like, I don't know who these guys are, and I'm going to shop.
Mm-hmm.
But the second that he saw me, and when I walked into PM's office, he's like, "You're Loren Avedon." I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Hi, I'm Joseph Mary, and we do action films, and let me talk to my partner. Would you come back around, later today?" I said, "Sure." So I came back later today, and they offered me a 3-picture deal. They didn't give me numbers, like what they would pay me.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, let me get back to you. And then I was walking around meeting all these other distributors and stuff like that. And I never went back. And then all of a sudden I saw that they were doing Lorenzo Lamas movies, and they were doing movies, with Don the Dragon Wilson, or with, and so was Curb. Don had a 10-picture deal with Mike Curb with Curb Entertainment. And so I fucked up, basically. I should have gone back and not been so greedy, I guess, at the time, a little young and dumb. And I should have signed that 3-picture deal with PM. because I probably could have convinced them to let me, let me bring some guys in that can really make some action look good. Because when I saw a few PM movies, and I was not impressed with their action.
Some are great, some are not. There's not much of an in between with theirs. The Don the
Give me
Dragon stuff is good. The Gary Daniels had a long run with them. Most of his are very good, but yeah, then there were other ones where it was just kind of like, here's a couple random guys shooting guns, like that.
And here's the thing, Gary was smart. Gary had the look, dude. Gary had the muscles and yeah, a little bit of an accent, but he had that look. Don, natural pick, because he was already, he was working with Curb, but I don't think he had an exclusive. And then I don't know if Cynthia did some stuff with
She
them.
had a nice run with them.
And so, I fucked up, basically. I should have signed that 3-picture deal, but I had it in my head that I wanted to try to, move on to a little bit better genre and a little bit better group. And I think I saw some of the trailers of the stuff, like, while I was there in Cannes, and I was like, nah, but because thinking that, something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing happened. So, basically I screwed up. I should have signed the 3-picture deal with them. And then I was brought in a couple times to maybe play a background part as a henchman or something like that. And I did do that. And then here's the real, piano wire around the balls for this on PM Entertainment. Lorenzo Lamas gets hired to do a job, and Sherry Rose to do a picture. And they want me in the picture. And both Sherry and Lorenzo say, we don't want to work with Loren. He's difficult to work with. So get this. I had to somehow explain why I had to tell Sherry in the middle of a scene, of doing that scene where she has to come out and do the hot tub thing, where we had been out in this clong in this real remote location for almost 10 days shooting, and we'd finally gotten used to all the mosquitoes, the horrible conditions, no air conditioning, no nothing. And she comes out after she's been at the hotel for a week eating sugar cookies and has a hissy fit about why is she out there. And I took her aside, and this is the truth, Corey. I took her aside and I said, Sherry, please, we're all miserable out here. Please, just can we just get through this, and then we don't have to do this again. We don't have to be out here anymore. Okay, so can you please just calm down? It wasn't me that was difficult to work with. It was the prima donna that came out. But now PM wants to use her for TNA, mm-hmm. And then they want Lorenzo, who broke my nose, to for me to be his either. I don't remember what part I was supposed to play in that film. But now he's saying, I don't want to work with Loren. He's difficult. Dude, you broke my fucking face and you did nothing about it. Mm-hmm. You're difficult, you little prima donna. And then where did he end up? Well, flying helicopters. But, so that was enough, all of this wacky shit would happen. And I just was like, it was almost surreal. It's like one of those things where you're in a bad movie, but it's real. Mm-hmm. They shot me down at PM too. And so not only did I not sign a deal with when I had the chance to be one of their first stars, but then later on, two people that I had a run-in with are supposed to star in a movie, and then now all of a sudden I'm labeled, and there's whispers. Loren is difficult to work with, which is the furthest thing from the truth. If you talk to anybody who's worked with me, really worked with me, So if you talk to Billy, if you talk to Matthias, if you talk to anybody, except for those two, because one I had to calm down because she was having a hissy fit, and the other one busted my face and cried and then never did anything about it. So I did something about it, and that was just a moment. So there's behind the scenes of just what First of all, PM, fine. B movies, C movies, sometimes D
D
movies,
movies, pretty closer, yeah.
and so it's just what happened for it. And everything is supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen, I think. And I really wanted to make my own productions. First Time got stolen away. Silent Force, great little film that we shot for $150,000. Okay, I mean in 1995, I pulled in more favors than I don't know who I can use as an example, and it was stolen. And then the gal who stole it made 18 other films, set up a distribution company because she was the accountant for the executive producer. Totally ripped off her idea. And then she was banned from the AFM. I don't know if she ever did any time for it or ever was, but totally stole our idea, basically. Then 1997, Master Films gives us money, and yours truly hadn't paid the writer the option to write the script on this idea that I had to play a SEAL in a movie. And I didn't really like the draft, so I wasn't going to option it. And then all of a sudden he calls me when I'm in Canada and says he's got, okay, fine, I'll tell you. He had $1.8 million to make this movie, which was a good amount of money.
Yeah.
I didn't see much of it, but I got to work with Francesco Quinn, Brian Jane, Sid Lufau, and if the action, and if we didn't have the bad luck of that storm, it would have been a much better film. And but unfortunately, it's just so crazy how in Hollywood, or when you don't have an echelon, egos are just so damning to the human condition. And my thing was, I just it taught me in these films. Jalal Marai, I could have been in TC 2000. I could have been in whatever some of those early
Talons
films
of
that
the
he did.
Eagle, Tiger Claw. Well, you were in Tiger Claws too. I like the Jalal Marai films. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, but for some reason, he and I just didn't get along. We just looked at each other and we didn't like each other.
I've heard that from other people.
And that's what happened. I just thought like that he was just kind of like some arrogant Lebanese dude, and I didn't realize who he was. And then all of a sudden, he comes out with these movies, and I'm like, oh, cool. But Matthias and whatever, and who made Jalal use me was uh, Alan Shapiro of Shapiro Glickenhaus, who put No Retreat, No Surrender 2 out in 2,500 theaters. He said, you got to work with Loren. He's terrific. You really got to work with him. And so finally, he hired me for Tiger Claws 3 because Bolo wanted some ridiculous amount of money to come and play the daddy in Tiger Claws 3. And so Jalal and I, and then the writer, John, I can't remember his last name, but he wrote the character. I read the script. Jalal made me a decent enough offer. And I said, cool, I get to play a bad guy. And then people were ripping me for playing a bad guy. How could you do that? The fans kind of thing. I had so much fun playing a bad guy in that movie.
3 was a fun film. 2 was not very good. 3 was a fun film. I don't get how any of them have anything to do with one another because they were not mystical Big Trouble in Little China movies in the beginning. It was Bolo killing people with the tiger claw technique. And only Jalal Merhai could stop him.
That's right. And I'll tell you something. There was a lot of great little action gaffes in that movie because I got to direct second unit sometimes, and they all ended up on the floor. Mm-hmm. You don't see them in the movie because, again, when you see explosive action, like you see Power, and then you see some guy, whipping a stick and kind of, it looks just a little light. You can't put the two, you can't show one and then show the other and have the hero be the hero. And so there's a scene where I have to come into the building or something with the three crazy, Chinese things that I've unearthed. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I have to blast these guys. And man, I gaffed this thing that was so cool, and it looked so cool. Even the guys, even the DPs, when they were, crew usually gives you no reactions, really. And they were like, wow, that was awesome, and that was gone. And then there was another little snippet of something where I get to kind of show off, and that went away. And, so anyway, look, it is what it is, bro. All I can say is that, even in virtual combat, Andrew Stevens tried to get me together, with Shannon Tweed to do some Shannon Tweed movies. And I was married, and my wife was like, So I had to turn that down. So, just a series of unfortunate events. But yeah. And I'm sure if Gene Simmons had come to the dinner at Andrew Stevens' house and, stuck his tongue out at my wife, then maybe she would have changed her mind. But that just didn't happen. But anyway, so I got to do virtual combat, and then I made some dumb moves, dude. I was with the Gage Group, which was just one step down from ICM, CAA, William Morris, and I hated my agent. So rather than go talk to Martin Gage, I just was so pissed off at this guy named Rick Axe that I just said, you know what, dude, I don't even want to talk to you anymore because you're just so rude to me. I'm a client, and you're talking to me like I'm a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And I should have gone to Martin Gage and said, Martin, did I do something to Rick? Or I don't understand. I mean, I'm booking these jobs. What's going on? And then, but I didn't. I just bailed. I just said, I just wrote him a letter and said, I no longer wish to be represented. And Martin Gage's reactions was nobody leaves us. What the fuck is wrong with this guy about me? Anyway, because I didn't really know how lucky I was to have them as an agency, because I didn't really know where they were in the echelon of Hollywood. But in any case, you know what? Series of unfortunate events, series of misnomers. Everything happens for a reason. And, I had the chance to transition into stunts. Howard Jackson wanted me to replace Garrett Warren on some TV series, and Howard Jackson was a very, very famous kickboxer, very famous stunt coordinator way back in the day in the 90s. Probably know his name, but I turned it down. And so sometimes when you turn things down or when you don't show up, and people just you start to there's always somebody else waiting in the wings, always. And so the bottom line is that at least I got to do some really epic movies for seasonal. I'm one of the only Guilos that ever finished a contract with seasonal films. Most of them bailed after one film because I think Gary Daniels got Fist of the North Star after he did Blood Moon, and then he got signed with PM, and he didn't have to go to Asia and have the shit kicked out of him.
Blood Moon's a very cool film. That's one of the more underrated martial arts films out there.
Well, there you go. And, Gary sent me his stuff, as did Daniel Bernhardt. And I told Gary, I can't remember if it was through Kamel Khalifa, who was one of Van Damme's trainers and buddies. I said, tell Gary he's a star. I mean, it's just a matter of time. He's got the look, he's got the moves, he's going to be a star. When somebody sold me Daniel Bernhardt kind of bouncing around and, in some kickboxing gear, I was like, the guy's good looking on film, but I didn't hear a word out of him. Like, I didn't hear him act at all. Then all of a sudden he got signed. I can't, and look at what he did in John Wick. He was fucking awesome.
Yeah, but
In John.
that's redemption for doing Bloodsport 2, 3, and 4.
I
I mean, when you're in a
was,
movie,
I,
the Dark Kumite with Pat Morita, come on.
dude. All I can tell you is never saw those movies. Already knew, didn't want to watch them because you want to. I don't know. You know how you can kind of smell things before you, and So anyway,
The
I
second
just
one is passable.
don't even care. Was my attitude. And the thing is it's just a trip. How it's just sort of it's unexplainable sometimes. But I'm really glad right now, just to go present, that Scott is doing so well, and that he's maintained a career, and he is just a next gen martial arts technician and athlete, able to do the acrobatics, able to do the wire work, able to do stuff without a wire, able to do these incredible kicks. And I don't know how big he is, but I know he's doing a movie right now in Alabama with Dolph. Dolph is directing. And Dolph, I had the pleasure of just training with at June Chung.
I heard he's a hell of a karate guy.
He is. Dude, he's the fourth Dan in Kyokushin Kai. If you know anything about Kyokushin,
yeah,
to get your first Dan, you have to fight 10 men in a row, 3-minute rounds, 1 minute rest. Full on. Second Dan, 20 men. Third Dan, 30 men. Now, I think he got his fourth Dan honorarily.
Okay.
But 30 guys in a row with 1 minute break? Like, you've watched Kyokushin tournaments, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
They're so exciting to watch. And these guys beating the crap out of each other, bare knuckle, barefooted, in the chest. But what always happens? Some dude does a head kick, and it's over. Because you can't punch to the head in Kyokushin. Because it's too easy. And of course, who is the founder of Kyokushin? A Korean guy.
Well, Dolph's a big guy to have to do. I mean, what is he, about 260, 270?
Oh, dude, he's 6'6", and he's probably 260. I used to see him and Bill Wallace go at it, and Dolph would leg kick Bill Wallace in his bad knee and piss Bill off. And Bill would just give him a left hook, and he was just bloody-nosed after that. And, that just happened over and over because Dolph was trained in Kyokushin, so he's going to leg kick you. And but it was just so fun to watch, and that was a June Chung. Yeah, and Bill is was terrific to train with too. And I would make Bill chase me around the school because I knew he had a bad leg.
There you go.
So I would tag him, and then I'd be over there. Just frustrate the hell out of him. But then again, I did step in the ring with him when I was a green belt, and I back kicked him right in the belly and had Simon Ree and Philip Ree going woo at Sam Jones' house. Remember Sam Jones from Smash Gordon?
So awesome. He's such a good guy.
He is super. He is such a great guy. And he had a house on Sunset Plaza Drive, and he built a ring in the And then he went from there when he, had spent a lot of his money to this little 1-bedroom apartment or a little, studio apartment. And he put a fucking mat in his apartment. This is true story. And he wrote, "No shoe." He had that stenciled in on, this is true, So you had to take your shoes off, and most of his apartment was this mat, traditional canvas mat. But I back kicked Bill Wallace and got the oohs from the guys, and I'm in the ring with Bill Wallace. Now Bill Wallace knows how to use the ropes. I never had ropes around me. I had an open mat, so I was a little old green belt. So he 1-2'd me off the ropes and stuck his heel into my temple. And I could have stayed up, but I said, you know what? I think I'll sit down.
Yeah, that's
And I sat down. And then, as he would know me through the school, and I have some old pictures of him laughing with him, and he was really younger. This dude would do 45 pull-ups, eat 6 Baby Ruth candy bars, and go out and teach class.
Jesus.
I mean, he's just a freak,
Yeah.
So anyway, but so a lot of stuff that you didn't ask to be covered, but wanted to share with you. It just came out organically.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And you know what? Loren Avedon is still around, so we'll see. I'm out of the rabbit hole. I was in Hawaii for a long time, taking care of moms, and that was my duty. That was my familial duty. And Hawaii kind of saved my life because losing my mom was a big deal. My mom gave up a lot to raise me as a single parent when that wasn't cool in the 60s to be out of wedlock and have a kid. And she sacrificed a lot for me, so it was my absolute honor to take care of her until she passed. And Hawaii helped me do that, man, because I'm not one of these kind of guys that can go to therapy and talk about it.
Yeah, I was never good at that
share.
either.
I gotta go fucking build a house and go hunting and fishing
Yeah.
and chop down some trees and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was that. And here I am in Florida now, and who the hell knows? There's been a lot of attention. I got to thank COVID for that, because people are starting to stay at home and watch old shit. They're going, hey, I wonder if that guy Loren Avedon is still. Oh yeah, he's got an IG account. Oh yeah, he's got a Facebook. So we'll see what happens,
Yeah,
Corey.
my wife hit you up on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, listen, it's really a pleasure to talk to, or to, for you to allow me to talk about all of these things. But I got to tell you, man, I cannot, I pinch myself when I think about all of the things that I can't explain. It just magically occurred, and I got to be immortalized in some really, really cool, fun, entertaining movies. And, who knows, man? I mean, I still look good. You can't tell by this interview, but you can tell from the Bruce Willow interview and from this other guy. Sorry to be plugging other dudes.
No, you're fine.
But Hollywood Masters, this guy Verrill in Amsterdam. I still look good, man, and I can still move. I just can't be doing no, jump helicopter kicks anymore at 58. And who can? So
Keep
there
cooked.
it is. But we'll see what happens.
For everybody out there, you have a website, correct?
Yes, LorenAvedon.com, and I'm also on IG at Loren Avedon Official. And what I try to do is post some stuff that's relevant, this or that. But honestly, what I've always been about, and I'll just say this, Corey, is kids after school programs. I've been a martial artist first, got to be an actor, but I'm all about the discipline. I'm all about the martial arts and about kids programs. I did that in Hawaii. I did that with BJ Penn at the Penn Academy. I did that I did martial arts over there. I taught kids in Pahoa, Hawaii, that are some of the poorest communities on the Big Island that unfortunately were devastated by this lava flow in 2018. And in the South Bay, in Compton, Linwood, Lawndale, Englewood, Hawthorne, you name it, Gardena, stumped for after-school programs, taught disadvantaged, at-risk youth, And that is my passion, is martial arts and what it can do. And it should be taught, I believe, in every school by the right persons and taught in a disciplinary manner, or with discipline and with technique, not with, this is actual, you need to go to, in other words, from age 6 to 12,
Go to a real
get,
school.
get them young, teach them respect and discipline, since we can't say pledge allegiance, or maybe we can, I don't know, in the schools anymore. We don't have a lot of athletic programs. Music and art programs have been cut in public schools. But what can we do for kids between the hours of 3 and 6, when they're vulnerable and when they have to leave school and their parents are still working?
Mm-hmm.
We need after-school programs, we need A-plus programs, and martial arts being a part of those, and being a part of California Youth Karate Club, which stumps for that, and working with the LA County Sheriff's Department and all that stuff, and working with the Eagles demo team, working with, just all of my experiences with the martial arts. It's so wonderful to be able to come full circle, and sorry to steal a line from one of my movies, and always be able to come back to that, because that's the thing that is so important, I think, is, whether it's, for whatever reasons. And you have, did you say you have a little girl?
I have a son. He started his training when he was 4. He's 11 now. He is a junior black belt in Taekwondo and a red belt in Kenpo.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And, if we could just get this, or make this event, make those kinds of things in the right, and a way for it. It's like, for example, and I'll be short with this, Andre Lima and Christina Lima, black belt at Jun Chong, way, way, way back before it was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s. But I'm all about the martial arts. I wish that Chuck Norris's sidekick program, or whatever he was doing when he was being recognized, he was trying to get it in the public schools and
Yeah,
the
I
school
remember
systems.
that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping to do is to continue training and teaching. Although in Florida here, I don't. There's no real Hapkido around here that's close by where I am. There's mostly ITF, and I'm the type of grandmaster now, that I'm not going to walk into somebody else's school and try to cast a shadow. But I am all about, and I hope, this really becomes infectious. Like Keith Vitale just wrote a book with his grandson, Sam, about anti-bullying. So anti-bullying, martial arts after-school programs, if I can use my notoriety or any influence to, try to make that come to fruition. And also, these days I'm getting into some other stuff about, child trafficking, and I'm working with other agencies and things about, just educating educators, and trying to get into the systems, into the school educative systems. I just haven't met the right people here yet. Although I did meet a gal who was a former, vice president of Wounded Warriors, but that's not the kind of thing that, I can do anything really with. It's all about getting them young, and about doing something for the kids. So that's where I'm at now. I'm hoping. There's a couple of scripts I'd like to make. I'd like to do them with Scott, or do them with somebody. If they happen, they happen. If they don't, hey, just got married, beautiful Serbian gal. She'll be over here, and I will always be available to, what I mean, to support anyone
Mm-hmm.
who's up to good stuff. And so I hope that your son continues, and he becomes the man that you are. You know what I'm saying? Trying to do the right thing for the right reasons, and bring a little light to the world. So
He's surpassing me on some things. It's scary.
That's awesome, man. That means you're a great dad. So props.
Well,
Props
thank
to
you.
you, dog. Props.
He gets to practice his staff, and I get to practice the sticks at the same time, so it benefits each other. What with COVID, I'm not going to let him roll around on a mat. So,
No. And you know what's great about, Eskrima is when you have sticks coming at you, hands are slow.
mm-hmm.
Don't you find that?
I
And
do.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
and as he's using his staff, that's helping me work on the speed for that. But yeah, it's a weapon I always wanted to be better at.
Well, because you know what, you can pick up anything, and then when you have that technique of the Eskrima or Kali, it is it. Hey, the Filipinos, whoop the Spaniards' asses with little fucking rattan
Yeah,
sticks.
yeah,
Okay, why? Because the fucking Spaniards had these huge, were wearing these huge armor and these stupid hats, and they had nothing but chainmail protecting their cojones. So those little Filipino dudes would go in and eviscerate one of them, and with speed and using that, and that's why I really love Silat. I really love the Filipino martial arts. I really love, as far as practicality and overall. I'm just a martial arts junkie. I love it. Love Wing Chun, but also know that it's just like Bruce, man. He knew you needed boxing. He knew you needed taekwondo kicking. He
mm-hmm.
knew you needed Savat and Eskrima, Arnis Kali, Jun Fan, that he created Jeet Kune Do. The style of no styles, of course, has styles. But, it's all good. And I'm so happy for you, Corey, that your son is a dedicated martial artist. And you know what? That is just props to you and your wife and the three dogs. You
Yeah.
know,
So,
it's what it's all about, man. It's all good. And so, it's really a pleasure that you've allowed me to
oh,
gab for as long as I
it
have.
was an honor to
And,
speak with you.
and it's an honor to be, to be listened to, and to know that there's guys like you out there who, you know what I mean, who get it. And so thanks for this.
No, thank
Thank
you. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother.